Today marks a historic afterthought day. Yesterday on July the 13th, one of the important banner days in the Marian apparition at Fatima, there was an attempted assassination on ex-future President Trump. And everyone's talking about, as always, the wrong angles. The head of the Secret Service is a lady, and the gross incompetence has led conservative normies to talk about it in a way that's sort of encouraging, but always still misleading. So most of us, including yours truly, did not know that the head of the Secret Service is a lady girl, but it's not surprising. And now conservatives are whining about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, saying she was a diversity, equity, inclusion hire. And I'm just saying, stop. Conservative normies, please shut up about the evils of DEI. Literally, DEI is just the formalization and the codification of the women in the workplace lie that all of you embraced in 1970. And the proof of the fact that they have this wrong lies in the fact that this story is all over Twitter now. It is what people are talking about. The lady Secret Service boss who had bad credentials. She was just from PepsiCo as some sort of tech defense person. That's why this failed. A slightly less normie conservatives will talk about it as she was a DEI hire, and that there's this goal that the Secret Service has professed by 2030 to have 30% female recruits. So slightly less normies think that they're venturing out onto the branch, out onto the limb by talking about that. And I'm saying, STFU, normies. You guys refuse to say that. What's the Secret Service lady's name? Let's get her name. I'll be that respectful. Sorry. You guys refuse to say this is really not her fault. This is not her lack of credentials' fault. It's not her gross incompetence's fault. It's America's fault for making her believe that she should be in the workplace. And now slightly less conservative normies are saying things like, yeah, categorically, she shouldn't be in this kind of job. Categorically, DEI is wrong. DEI just says, look, if women belong in the workplace, why shouldn't the number of females in the jobs be closer to 50%? I don't like DEI. Of course, I'm far on the other extreme. DEI is not to blame here, though. It's conservative normies who have been pimping out their wives, the mothers of their children, for extra dollars cash, knowing that it doesn't matter whether your wife's a Secret Service agent or a commando or an Army Ranger or a Navy SEAL. Yeah, normies will complain about that, or a police officer or a fireman or, I don't know, an MMA fighter. Even normies get that that's gender dysphoria. But any job, teacher, you need male teachers for your children, especially in like Catholic schools where there's almost no, in Catholic elementary school, there are no men teaching your children. You need men, doctors, lawyers.
Her name is Kimberly.
Kimberly, what's the last name?
Cheadle.
Oh yeah, Kimberly Cheadle. Don't blame her. She's just, I don't mean this symbolically. I mean it literally. Leave the poor woman alone. Kimberly Cheadle. She's just a lady that buys, like 99% of everyone, cultural lies. Human beings, aside from the very exceptional, buy cultural lies. This cultural lie began in 1848 at the Seneca Falls Convention. You've heard me talk about this. But really culminated in 1970, which was the inflection point. All the women flushed into the workforce in the 70s. Okay? And President Trump nearly died, I guess. I don't know what to think about that. It's a fishy kind of story until you remember that it's a female Secret Service lead named Kimberly Cheadle. Then it's like, well, now it makes sense. But it is kind of fishy. I mean, that was like the building of all buildings that you would use, that an assassin would use. And so there's kind of normie conspiracy theories. There's the normies who just believe everything they hear. I'm glad Trump's okay, but I don't really care about anything besides conservatives for once need to get the story right. It's not Kimberly's fault. It's not DEI's fault. It's America's fault. And by the way, Trump is all in on feminism. He might pick a female VP. He gave us Amy Coney Barrett. Trump is DEI. Why do you hate DEI? It's important to get this right for once. She should be fired not because of her lack of qualifications. She should be fired for her lack of testicles. Literally, it's that simple. And it's not just because it's a job where, do we have the picture of her? Where she's ducking. She came up with an excuse after the first attempted kill shot to pick up his hat, to get out of his way, because it's scary to do your job as SS, which is to keep your body in his way. That's their protocol. They form a cover and they move with him. And she's like, oh, let me get his hat. Let me tie his shoe. Let me flick this ant off the ground in front of his shoe. Let me tie my shoe. Anything to get out of the way. That is not her fault. She is a woman. Women do such things because they deserve protection. She's the boss of Secret Service. And you guys go, yeah, Tim, I'm with you to an extent. But I mean, like, why can't women teach our children? Because as incompetent as Kimberly Cheadle is at protecting Trump, all your kids' school teachers are at convincing your kids of the truth of the faith, convincing your kids of the truth of whatever they're doing. Young boys, young girls listen to men. That's how God created the universe. So yeah, I'm not saying that a president nearly died and a man named Corey Comparatore lost his life. Let's talk about that. I'm glad Trump's okay. I don't really care about the conspiracy theories or the regular theory. I'm more interested in the real gold here, which is America needs to get square with anti-feminism. Needs to get straight with feminism. Their lies and my lies were never settled, as Rage Against the Machine once sang.
It's interesting to me, like looking at the footage, which we've been just like nonstop watching, like all the video. These women, it's not just one of them. It's all of the Secret Service women they're all panicked. The iconic photo of Trump with his fist in the air, which we have on the screen right now. This woman is like 1.5 feet shorter than Trump, and she's still basically guarding herself. She's bowed down. She can't even cover most of this man's body. I mean, this is where we are in the society where people, I'm looking at it right now in chat, they're like, this isn't the issue. Guys, this is the issue. Our president was nearly taken out because you out there in chat right now who are saying that this isn't the issue. This is what happens. You don't think feminism is a problem and you just look the other way. And now we have our president's head exposed to a bullet because the women are so horribly incompetent, not just in physically covering the man that they're supposed to cover, but they should have secured that roof.
Jobs outside of the home. Yeah, securing the roof. This guy, Corey Comparatore, actually died because of, and again, conspiracy theory, not conspiracy theory. I really don't care. I couldn't care less. It's not about Trump for me. It's about every individual home and all of the normies buying at most, well, this is diversity, equity, inclusion to blame. No, it's not, man. Diversity, equity, inclusion makes sense if you believe that women should be in the workplace. Sorry. Diversity, equity, inclusion makes a lot of sense if you believe women should be in the workplace in the first place. Why shouldn't it be closer to 50%? Answer me that. Why shouldn't it be close? If it's not a wrong principle that married women, and people should be getting married closer to 20 rather than 30. So this should be basically all women. Married women should not be in the workplace. If you believe they should, then what's your problem with DEI? Throw it at me in the chat. Why is DEI wrong if women belong in the workplace? Let me read this touching story. This man died, a fire chief, former fire chief, and his daughter Allison, who was arguably saved by him, wrote this letter. Yesterday, time stopped, and when it started again, my family and I started living a real-life nightmare. What was supposed to be an exciting day that we'd all looked forward to, especially my dad, turned into the most traumatizing experiences someone could imagine. I know the media will cover this event, and I'm going to try my best to stay away from looking at everything because, especially, I've already seen and lived through it in real time. But I want everyone to know what the media will not cover and will not say about him. He was the best dad a girl could ever ask for. My sister and I never needed for anything. You call, he would answer, and he would do whatever it is you needed. And if he didn't know how, he could figure out how. He could talk and make friends with anyone, which he was doing all day yesterday, and loved every minute of it. He was a man of God, loved Jesus fiercely, and he looked after our church and our church members as family. The media will not tell you he died a real-life superhero. They're not going to tell you how quickly he threw my mom and I to the ground. They're not going to tell you how he shielded my body from the bullet that came at us. Well, that part we did here, but all the rest of this is really good stuff. He loved his family. He truly loved us enough to take a real bullet for us. That's an expression for a reason. That's what a man does. He has no training. That's what a man does. He has no training. He's a fireman, not a Secret Service guy. He wasn't trained at Pepsi. He doesn't need to. If a man were, if Corey were in Kimberly's position, he would not have pretended to tie a shoe or pick up a hat. He would have done his job because he's a man. Do you understand? I'm not trying to be exaggerative here. The incompetence of Kimberly Cheadle stemmed not from where she worked before. It stems from the fact that she worked outside of the home. Do you get it yet? And the proof is a man like Corey Comparatore, I'm reading his daughter's letter right now. It's touching, legitimately. With no training. He's a fire chief guy, a former fire chief man. They're not, whether he was or wasn't ever trained, the difference between cover and concealment, how best to do body cover, center of mass cover, it doesn't matter. Look what he did for his family. Look what any man who's not a complete wuss would do for their family. I mean, look, consult your phantasms. You know that unless you have a loser of a dad, he would do this for you. Even if he might not be a perfect dad. He might not pray with you. He might not have played with you enough. He might not have been tender. He might have been a little too tender. But if he has a bit of the right stuff, he would have done what Corey Comparatore did for his daughter Allison. And guess what? Neither of those guys, had they been without a day of training assigned to President Trump, they would have been like those guys that help the cops and fight the criminals better than the cops. He would have been better than the SS. He would not have pretended to stoop and pick up his hat. Don't blame Kimberly Cheadle. I am not being tongue-in-cheek here. My tongue's not planted in my cheek. It's not her fault. It's your fault, America. It's your fault. Oh, DEI. There's nothing wrong with DEI. If women are supposed to be in the workplace. If women belong in the workplace, then what's wrong with DEI? This guy, Corey Comparatore, did what basically any decent man, and by decent, I'm really loosening the standards here on what qualifies as decent. This guy loved Jesus. Great. I hope he's up in heaven for being a dad who took a real life bullet and his daughter said he loved Jesus. I hope he is. Pray for this man's soul. And another person was hurt critically, but I think is going to pull through. But the point is, with no training, this guy could have worked at PepsiCo in whatever job Kimberly Cheadle did her whole life. He would have done, I guarantee you, he would have done a good job covering Trump the way he covered his daughter, Allison.